Welcome to Discovering Star Trek. It's Entertainment Talks podcast for Star Trek Discovery on CBS All Access and Netflix. I'm your host Matthew, and this is for Season 3, Episode 7, Unification 3. So, I had a quick look online to see what the general consensus of this episode was, looked around social media, that sort of thing. And some people seem to love this episode, some people seem just sort of bored of it. And like, oh, that didn't work. I'm sort of very much in the middle on this one, where this is a mixed bag for me. There's some things that I can tell went over my head, as opposed to Star Trek history and knowledge, which is fine. I'm here to, well, you just heard the name of the podcast, Discovering Star Trek. There's things that I know and that kind of thing, but I do feel like there's some background in this episode that isn't clicking with me because of my knowledge, and that's not my fault. That's not the show's fault either. It's just the way it is. But yeah, it's a mixed bag for me. There's a few really good moments. There's a few moments that I just sort of did not care about at all. There is not really new characters put into this episode. I mean, characters that we've not met before, but I don't think they'll be sticking around. This new Vulcan. These new Vulcan people that we meet, the president, who obviously stuck out the most because she's the leader, and then all these other characters who are from these other places or whatever. They all kind of say their names and like, I'm so and so and this and that. I forgot that almost straight away. They just didn't feel like they mattered to me, those particular characters. Want to jump to my biggest positive for the episode, which is Tilly getting unexpectedly promoted. I say unexpectedly because the audience probably didn't see that coming, namely myself, part of the audience, and Tilly certainly didn't see that coming as well. She says to Saru, I'm just an ensign, is it? Ensign Tilly? Because her full official title, whatever, is Ensign Tilly. Says I'm just an ensign or whatever, and just doesn't expect it. And Tilly's always been one of those characters that, like, whenever somebody gives her a compliment or promotes her, as in this episode, she kind of emotionally sort of, it's a bit much for her kind of thing, which is fine. Like, we've grown accustomed to the character of Tilly and kind of who she is and what she's about and that sort of thing. She just gets emotional when she gets surprised or when she gets a bit sort of scared. I've spoken before about Tilly that there's probably some anxiety there among the character. So that was kind of went about as I expected. But no, I thought that was a really good moment. I thought that the say yes thing at the end of the episode was quite good. It's very much a Michael episode though, isn't it? Her trying to make her case is the main point here. She gets these SR-19, SP-19, something like that, the little device that she gets at the end of the episode, which has got the data on that she needs to look at the burn incident or evidence of that, and she's got sort of new evidence at the start of the episode about these seconds or whatever it is, because the ships exploded at slightly different times, or something. I thought that was all. See, that main point of the episode I am interested in. It's the execution with these new characters that come in. I get it, I was about to say they're very, very robotic, and I get it, that's part of the performance that they're supposed to put in, and I get it that that's supposed to be part of the characters, but because characters in this show, when they're sort of like, yes sir, and all that, going along with the sort of order dialogue type of thing in Star Trek, it can be robotic at times, but this was on like an extra level where, I don't know, it did not work for me at all, their delivery of the dialogue. It's not the actor's fault, it's just these characters I just didn't connect with at all. Whether or not I was supposed to, I'm not entirely sure, because obviously the main point for us is, okay, these people don't really matter to us necessarily, but it's more about, can Michael get this SP-19 thing? Her mum kind of almost throws her under the bus, sort of, and turns out that it was a test of trust and whatever. It's good to see her mum again. That was kind of cool and everything like that, but yeah, it looked a bit weird at certain points in the episode of like, okay, your mum's like throwing you under the bus, this looks really weird, because there was kind of a few turning points in this episode where like, oh, you haven't done this, you haven't done that, and then Michael kind of counters that with like, oh, I have done this and have done that, and saved the planet or saved my crew and my ship a bunch of times and that sort of thing. So, yeah, she's not really having a great time in this episode necessarily, apart from the start and the end of the episode, namely, really. Yeah, cool to see Brooks back again, and she seems like she's sort of sticking around there, which is interesting and understandable. So yeah, that was good as well. What else happened in the episode? Yeah, they showed a bit more of. I don't know if we saw it in the last episode. It might have been in the one before. That after they upgraded the ship, we see I almost forgot his name, Paul, in this episode use his spore drive thing, like the new version, like fully sort of flying with the ship and that. That was kind of cool to see, because now that they have actually, after 2.5 seasons really, got the ship upgraded, it's time to sort of actually show it. And yeah, I do like when the speaking of that, I do like when the president sort of arrives aboard or whatever, and says like, hey, yeah, I noticed this system and that system, and Saru's like, yeah, we upgraded our ship. I'm glad that after 2.5 seasons of characters saying like, hey, your ship's really, really old, it's really bad, like it looks new and it looks really good, but your actual technology is really old. And then somebody actually finally comes aboard the ship and says like, I see that you've upgraded your ship and everything. So it was interesting to hear that conversation actually flipped around for a change. Instead of her coming aboard and being like, hey, your ship's really old, you should update it and stuff. Because to me that still took too long to do, but yeah, they got around to it eventually, which was good. No Philippa in this episode, no Adair in this episode as well, which was, some of the bigger points. Those characters led to some of the better points of last week's episode. I just kind of feel as well, I know it's not always fair to compare episodes, but it is when I'm going to talk about the previous episode. Coming off of last week's episode, having so many positive things to say about it. Like, this episode isn't bad, it just doesn't connect well with me on certain levels. It's just, there's a lot of robotic dialogue in this episode, and I really did struggle to kind of get into it. But then when we went back to some of our more normal characters having conversations, like the moments with Tilly in this episode, the moments with Michael outside of the dialogue stuff, a lot of that worked. Not all of it, but most of that worked. It's just because of the bulk of this episode is her trying to negotiate with these people and try to convince her, none of that really clicked or worked for me. But yeah, coming off of last week's episode, and it was just so strong. There was some good action, some really, really heartfelt moments, some perfect scenes, characters I cared about more. I sort of did go into this episode thinking like, oh, last week's was just so good. Probably one of the best episodes of Star Trek Discovery last week. You can listen to my podcast from last week if you want to know more of what I think of it. But yeah, and then going on to this week, I was like, what can they do this week that's going to not necessarily better last week's episode, but at least equal it or come close, and they didn't really come close to me. So this episode is kind of a victim of its previous episode, which is, something that was so good before, and you hope or you expect the quality to maintain itself somewhat, and it just didn't really. There were moments in this episode as well that were put in there for like emotion and stuff, and some of it worked. Again, just not anywhere near as well as last week. They tried to, of course, bring the mother in for all the emotional stuff as well. Not all of that worked necessarily. It's just not particularly strong, this episode, I don't think. But I wouldn't say it's bad or terrible. It just didn't quite sort of work for me. But let's take a quick break. We'll come back and then we'll talk about some more Star Trek. See you in a minute. Hi there, and thanks very much for listening. Today I'm here to tell you about our 2 different affiliate links. The first of which is our Amazon affiliate link. That's where you can shop on Amazon. We can get a small cut of what you spend, but it won't cost you anything extra. So whether you're getting a gift for somebody else or treating yourself, or maybe both depending on the occasion, we can get a small cut of what you spend, but it won't cost you extra. You can find the link to our Amazon affiliate link in your show notes. The second affiliate link for today is our Kualu affiliate link. If you want to get started with a website and a domain name of your choice, you can simply sign up with Kualu using the link in the show notes. They also have a live chat support system that's in the bottom right hand corner as well. So if you need help with getting set up, Kualu will be able to help you with that as well. The links for both of these can be found in your show notes for Kualu and the Amazon affiliate link. If you would like to get the ad-free versions of Entertainment Talks podcast and support us along the way, you can simply sign up over on our Patreon page. You can sign up either as a creator or as a patron. There's no difference there for the time being. And you can get your ad-free podcasts over there. It's a great way to support us on Entertainment Talk and to get rid of the ads and get your ad-free podcasts. You can also support Entertainment Talk on Patreon at the $3 level tier. This gets you a chance to request a review from us of your favourite TV show or film, but it's one per month, so one TV show or film review per month. It's up to you which one you want to choose. We will watch a few episodes of the TV show that you choose, or of course if it's a film, we'll just watch that film and we will review that for you on that month. And then when it gets to the next month, you can request a new TV show or a film review of your choice. That's $3 level tier. That does also of course include your ad-free podcasts for the month as well. Thank you very much for listening and enjoy the rest of the show. Alright, recently on Entertainment Talk, we've got another TV talk, Grey returned to Entertainment Talk, Grey returned to Entertainment Talk, and we discussed High School Musical, the TV series. I'm not going to say the full name of the show because it's a bit stupid, but yeah, really enjoyed that, the High School Musical discussion that we had. I talked about Emily in Paris, the new Netflix series based on a character called Emily who goes to Paris. We talked a bunch about procedurals, things like 911, 911 Lone Star, and a lot of the ones that Grey is watching, such as FBI, FBI Most Wanted, the Chicago shows. We talked about all of those. We talked about The Undoing, the new, not Nicole Kidman. Yeah, Nicole Kidman. Not Reese Witherspoon, it's Nicole Kidman. I was trying to think of the Big Little Lies cast. But Nicole Kidman starring alongside Hugh Grant in The Undoing. We talked about some of those episodes. No real spoilery sort of stuff, but we talked about that as well. And I also talked briefly about my history with Made in Chelsea, which is no longer ongoing, but talked about that as well because we talked a little bit about some of those sorts of shows and stuff, but you can check that out if you want to. Walking Dead will be on, still continuing. Season 1 episode 8 will be back. It is going to be a double episode next week. They confirmed it on Twitter through the Walking Dead account, but season 1 episode 8 I guess is the penultimate episode of the season, and we'll be back next week for the double finale episode. We'll see how it wraps up next week. United cast, Manchester United beat Istanbul in the Champions League 4-1, so that was really, really good. That's the 4th out of the 6 Champions League group stage games, and we'll see what happens against PSG on Tuesday. But we do have, of course, Southampton to play against on Sunday, so we'll see what happens in that game as well. Gaming talk this week, we talked about Cyberpunk 2077 and censorship, not censorship of the game, but just adult content and when it can get censored, and Cyberpunk's sort of role in that, I suppose, and some new features for the game as well, which is of course out in just under 2 weeks. 10th of December is the release date for Cyberpunk, so you can check that out when it comes out. I also talked about my impressions of Watch Dogs Legion as well, if you want to listen to those. Fear the Walking Dead concluded for its mid-season, season 6 episode 7. There'll be 9 episodes for the second half at some point in 2021, so I talked about that. And yeah, that's pretty much everything we've been doing on entertainmenttalk.org and on podcast platforms. Right. One other thing that I wanted to mention in this episode, because we don't get... I've noticed a little bit of a pattern with Star Trek Discovery. I find the episodes to be better, or to work better in terms of following through to the next episode, when there is an immediate next thing to get to. So if we look back at the season premiere, we had that 3-episode arc of the solo Michael episode with Brooks. He was there, obviously, that's where we met him. The episode with the Discovery crew, they met at the end of that episode, or they saw each other at the end of the episode. 3rd episode, Michael fully reunites with the crew, and then you kept continuing from there. Now, there was a couple of episodes this season after those three where there was an immediate next thing to go to. I feel like Star Trek, and I'm not talking about a cliffhanger, I'm talking about when an episode ends, not necessarily on a cliffhanger, but when an episode of Star Trek ends and you sort of know that there's an immediate next thing that needs to happen. I feel like Star Trek works a lot better when it's doing that, because although because there's a counterpoint to that as well, I suppose, which is, so like at the start of this episode, we didn't have an immediate next thing to get to, and we don't at the end of this episode as well, because things are kind of settled a little bit. We know the ongoing story and the ongoing plot, which is to get evidence about this burn thing and to figure out exactly what happened, and to, the Federation's kind of come into the picture and all that. So that's the overall arc of the season. But I'm talking about like when an episode ends and there's a next thing to we know what's going to what we're going to begin with next week. There's also the other point, which is where if you don't do that at the end of an episode and you go into next week's episode and then the Discovery crew are kind of just flying through space, they come across somebody, you don't know if that character is going to be a threat, a threat or a friendly person or whatever, or if they're going to immediately attack the ship. That obviously opens the episode with a bit more of an action sort of set piece. So there's good points to doing that as well. I just feel like this show is better when we know, okay, this character's done this thing at the end of the episode, so this thing is not necessarily going to happen next, but it's going to be addressed next as well. So I just feel like the show's better when it sort of does that. It sort of gives a sort of, instead of going into another episode and thinking like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen this week. We know what they're trying to do, but we don't know what's going to happen at the start of the episode. It's just better when you've got a next thing to immediately get to, like a reunion at the start of the season, and you could kind of speculate a bit better on what was going to happen because you knew that, okay, there's this thing that they need to address at the start. So yeah, speaking of addressing things as well and discovering problems and that sort of thing, so obviously in last week's episode we explored a bit more of Felipe's I'll call it PTSD sort of state in regards to Tyler and everything that's happening there, with the flashback stuff and everything from her former life, I suppose. We still haven't gotten to, now I know I keep sort of clinging on to this and I'm kind of losing the idea that this will actually get addressed with whatever's going on with Detmer. They didn't address it again in this episode. I'm gonna kind of not drop the interest, because I still want to know what happened. There was still clearly something that happened there, but we're kind of knee deep in the whole Federation plot now. We've met the Admiral, we've met this new President character and all that sort of thing. So I don't expect what's going on with Detmer to be sort of a priority, because we know that we needed to figure this thing out in this episode. But yeah, I wonder if they've kind of dropped that a bit now, or if it maybe it was something that possibly happened, but it wasn't as sort of maybe serious as what was going on with Felipe. Because with Felipe, Giorgio obviously, you saw that's like literally interrupted a couple of scenes, not in a bad way, in a good way, because they were doing the fight scenes in last week's episode, and like Felipe had that sort of attack again, and then she sort of passed out on the floor and everything. That's very, very involved with the scene that's going on. With what was going on with Detmer, it felt a bit more disconnected from everything, because it felt like a very individual sort of thing. But I don't know why you show that early on in the season, that there was clearly something going on there. You have the episode with Hugh where at the start he goes around and checks on the crew, they try and make them happier, and they specifically say to each other at the end of one of the episodes, this must have been like 3 or 4 episodes ago now, like, oh, do you want to chat? Yeah, I'll take up the offer. Oh, there's a surprise thing, and then it was the film that they went to watch. So I don't know if they're going to get back to that. I feel like they've kind of gone past it a little bit, but it could come up and surprise again. I just hope that if it does come up again, that it's not just sort of like, oh yeah, remember there's a problem here, because I'd like them to kind of address it. Because with Felipe, when she started to experience that sort of thing, what was going on, it took 2 episodes, wasn't it? Because it was at the end of one of the episodes, the same episode I think, as when Detmer was having some problems, or when Hugh was talking to the crew. because they went to watch the film, didn't they? And then Michael was on her way there, and she bumped into Philippa, and that's where she had like she looked like she was sort of out of it or whatever. But then the next episode, I think it was either the next episode or the one after that, they got around to that situation because it interrupted kind of the sequence of events. Michael directly asked her, and she kind of explained it a little bit. Whereas with Detmer, it's sort of been this very isolated incident. So I don't know, maybe I'm just clinging on to something that doesn't even matter. But, you know, Detmer is a character that matters. She's the pilot of the ship. You know, this isn't some sort of like red shirt character in the lower decks or something that's got some sort of problem. Not that I would dismiss a character having a problem, but I'm talking about like tiers of characters having problems. And to me, Detmer's a main character because she's the pilot. I know that she's not always in the forefront of things because it's usually Hugh or Tilly or Saru or Michael or Philippa or you know, one of the main characters. So she's not really considered in that bracket of tier of characters, but to me she's your main character. I mean, she's a pilot, like, you know, it's one of the literal main roles. So we'll see, but maybe I'm just clinging on to something that just isn't really even necessary. I don't know. I would just like to kind of explore that a little bit. I think that could be kind of interesting. But again, yeah, there's nothing to really for me to speculate about next week's episode because there's no immediate sort of next thing. I guess we're going to have another sort of exploration episode. I know that Michael did get that little device at the end, so you'll probably do something with that next week. But that wasn't the sort of ending piece to the episode, really. I know that Brooke kind of talked to her about it, but it wasn't quite the same as what it kind of has been. So, but that's my thoughts on this week's episode. A bit mixed. Some really good parts, some parts I just did not care for, really, and some dialogue that didn't really work for me. Just too robotic. Like, I understand these characters and that sort of thing, but a bit too robotic in certain places. But overall, not a bad episode, not a terrible episode, a good one, I suppose. But what did you think of this week's episode of Star Trek Discovery? Do you think that I'm analysing the Detmer situation too much? To me, she's just an important character, and we should explore what happened with her. I mean, if you're going to explore what happened with Philippa, why not explore what happened with Detmer? I don't know. But let me know what you think of everything related to Star Trek Discovery, or anything related to Entertainment Talk. Matthew at entertainmenttalk.org. Twitter eTalkUK. There's a contact page and information in your show notes. We move on to next week's episode next, which is episode 8. I will tell you the name of the episode next week. But yeah, that was Unification 3. Thank you all very much for listening. And if you want to find more of our content, if you want to hear some more stuff from me and all the other co-hosts and everything, you can find all of our content on entertainmenttalk.org. So yeah, for TV, video game, films and Manchester United podcasts. If you like what you've heard today and you want to support it and support Entertainment Talk, that would be brilliant. You can do that by either going to our Patreon page, searching for Entertainment Talk, on Patreon. Have a look at the $1 and $3 level tiers for ad-free podcast and review options. There is word of mouth. You can just simply tell people that you know about the content that we make, and they can have a look it up for it themselves. iTunes, you can search for Entertainment Talk on your favourite podcast platform. If we're not on your favourite podcast platform, please let us know, and we will look into that. But if you search for Entertainment Talk on your favourite podcast platform, please make sure you get subscribed so that you can send the new episodes, and also remember to rate and review the feeds as well. That will be very, very helpful. Social media, you can share everything that we do around on Facebook, Twitter, or whatever you're using these days, different Facebook groups, that sort of thing. For TV and film news, up-to-date, reliable TV and film news, David's got you covered over on geektown.co.uk, Geektown Radio on Tuesdays, both on the website and by searching for Geektown on podcast services. Bex is streaming daily over on Twitch. If you search for Trista Bytes, Trista, Bytes, go and follow her over there. If you want to watch me play some games on Twitch, which I might do later today, not completely sure, but I might do later today, you can search for eTalk UK on Twitch for the PES Master League stuff, see how I get on with Manchester United, and for other games in the future as well. And also look out for Let's Play Sundays. Thanks very much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.